So today we have some of the theory questions. Number one says, what is external respiration? B. Distinguish between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, external respiration is gaseous exchange between the tissues of the body and the external environment. Or you can say it is the intake of oxygen and the release of carbon dioxide and utilized gases to the external environment. You can pick any of these two answers as your definition of external respiration. Differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. For aerobic, water is produced as waste product. For anaerobic respiration, alcohol or lactic acid is produced as waste product, not water. Now, for aerobic respiration, oxygen is used up. It can get exhausted and it's made use of, but in anaerobic, oxygen is not required. Okay, now for aerobic, greater amount of energy is released. For anaerobic, less energy is released. Okay, aerobic means there is a presence of air. Anaerobic means there is an absence of air. So that is the difference between the two, type of respiration. The question 2 says, explain the term reproduction, and 3 says, what is meant by growth in living organisms? So, what do we mean by growth? So, the first one is reproduction is the biological process by which living organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. You can stop there or explain further. Now, reproduction can occur in two main ways. We have the sexual reproduction, we have the sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves a single parent and produce genetically identical offspring, while sexual reproduction involves two parents where male and female gametes fuse together to create genetically diverse offspring, that is, offspring that have genetic differences, while asexual is one parent produces an offspring that has the same genetic components, identical genetic offspring. So that is the difference. That is the explaining. It's not define reproduction. No, it is explained. So you have to talk about reproduction and the types. All right. And also, what is meant by growth in living organisms is growth is the irreversible increase in size and complexity. It is the irreversible increase in size and complexity. In a tabular form, outline 5 differences between autotrophic and holozoic mode of nutrition. And the fifth question says, list 3 characteristics of living organisms. List 3 characteristics of living organisms. So we are going to take a look at these two questions. Holozoic and autotrophic mode of nutrition. Now, under organisms, holozoic has animal protozoans, while autotrophic has plants and some bacteria. On the food source, holozoic is preformed organic food. That is what they take in. That is what they are. And inorganic autotrophic animal organisms take inorganic materials. Energy use, autotrophic mode of nutrition, that is organisms using autotrophic mode obtained by consuming other organisms, but autotrophic produce sunlight or chemicals. Now, under holozoic, digestion is internal, but under autotrophic, no digestions. So those are the difference of these two between these two mode of nutrition: organisms that undertake holozoic and organisms that are under autotrophic mode. These are the differences between them. The next question says list 3 characteristics of living organisms. So these are characteristics of living organisms. You can pick any 3 out of this. We have respiration, movement, excretion, reproduction, irritability, nutrition, adaptation, growth, competition, lifespan, and death. So these are the characteristics of living organisms. Now, the last question says, state 5 precautions that should be taken when using a light microscope. Precautions that should be taken when using a light microscope. So this is the diagram of a light microscope. This is the diagram of a light microscope. So you were not asked to draw it, but then this is the diagram of a light microscope. Growth, competition, lifespan, and death. So these are the characteristics of living organisms. Now the last question says, state 5 precautions that should be taken when using a light microscope. Precautions that should be taken when using a light microscope. So this is the diagram of a light microscope. This is the diagram of a light microscope. So you were not asked to draw it, but then this is the diagram of a light microscope. So these are the precautions, to follow when handling light microscope. Ensure working area are clean and tidy. Wear glove when handling immersion oil and stains. When you want to use stains like methylene blue, chemicals to stain your samples, ensure you are putting on gloves. Clean the lens gently with lens tissue immediately after use. Clean the lens gently with lens tissue immediately after use. You can clean it with alcohol, yes, or methylated, chemicals. After finish, leave the low power objective lens in place and lower the stage. Leave the low power objective lens in place and lower the stage. Turn off the light source. Turn off the light source, and all glass light must be disposed into sharp containers. Now, in a tabular form, state 4 differences between plants and animals. So, plant cells and animals. We have plant cells are usually larger in size, animals are smaller. Plants have rectangular fist shape, animals have round irregular shape. Plants are composed of a cell wall made up of cellulose, while for animals they do not have any cell wall. And lastly, plant cells have one or more comparatively very smaller vacuoles, while animal cells have one larger central vacuole taking 90% of cell volume.